Welcome to the Front Stretch Race Fans, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced white knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue. Get over to Joe's Karting today. Do yourself right with a little indoor kart racing. Continuing our interviews. Cody, have you ever been over to Joe's Karting?
I have not. Not yet.
Not yet. We'll get you over there one of these times. Have you been to Lyle's Tire and Wheels on 84th and J Street?
Also not yet.
You got to make sure you got good traction on your tires, do you?
Probably not.
Okay, yeah, the penny test. I've worn through mine. I think I'm on my third set of wheels. Well, third set of tires, second set of wheels. I've blown through those things pretty quickly. Tire installation, rim repair, alignments, balancing, it's all available, along with some great aftermarket kits and some stuff to jack your vehicle up. What is your daily driver?
Well, my daily driver is a Miller Lite van.
Oh, nice. Okay. You want to get some track lighting on that?
Yeah, I'm sure the company will be fine with it. That's good.
Take Miller to the next level.
That's right.
We're working on getting Dan's Tesla lifted.
Yeah.
I was looking around here. I didn't see your Tesla. I thought it was weird.
Well, she's a little beat up, so it doesn't qualify for the car show. You ought to see the front of it. I mean, I need to find a paint repair shop because it's just spattered with paint chips. It's terrible.
There you go. You just need a paint repair sponsor, and we're good.
Semi-sandblasted.
Working on it. But get over to lyletires.com on the website. Lylestire.com is the website. 84th and J in Omaha, just off the interstate, just north of the interstate there. And get over there and check them out for all of your tire needs. As we're getting through the winter months, now we're getting into the drier seasons, you're definitely still going to need new tires. One big advantage to getting brand new tires, you get less flats because the traction, the thickness of the traction.
That's always nice.
Yeah. I got a flat tire a week after I got mine from Mike.
Oh.
Roofing, or a sheet metal screw, which was like 3 inches maybe, 4 inches. It was big.
That'll do it.
Traction wouldn't have helped. The amount of tread would not have helped. But I took it right back over to the guys over at Lyle's Tire, and they got me fixed up right away.
You could probably get some good stories from those techs over there on what they found.
Oh,
I found all kinds of stuff when I used to do semi-tires.
Yeah, I bet.
All kinds of stuff.
We're talking with Cody Zeeb of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. And Cody, first off, James Rowland threw you on my radar, I think, about this time last year, and he's like, you got to listen to this guy.
Time out. Do we need to read a disclaimer that this is for entertainment purposes only?
Gambling problem, couple of 100 bets off.
Yeah, there you go. We're covered now.
But how did the podcast start, or maybe back up a little bit farther than that? What got you to start the podcast and doing this stuff?
Yeah, well, if you want to go all the way back to the start, got into racing. My grandparents started taking me out to Eagle Raceway, 2 years old. So grew up here, grew up at the racetracks. We'd go Eagle on Fridays, go out to Adams County on Saturdays, and then Sunday nights was Sunset. Of course, the Nebraska Raceway Park when I moved over there. So grew up in racing, loved racing. I always have. So, and then as you get older and stuff and, fantasy, DraftKings kind of started it with the getting into daily fantasy stuff. And then as the gambling part of things kind of became a little bigger, I was listening to the Sports Gambling Podcast, and they covered a lot of things. Didn't get into racing, though, and they just had like an online chat place. It was on Slack at the time. We have a Discord channel now, but I was just in there talking NASCAR with some of the other guys, and they reached out to me, and they liked the picks I was giving and whatnot, and they're like, hey, we're thinking about starting a NASCAR podcast, and here we are today, almost 600 episodes into the show.
Jesus. Good Lord.
Yeah.
I got to figure out how many we're in. I mean, 50 times at least 10.
Well.
Because, for the last 3 years, we've been 2 a week-ish. It'd be a long time. Anyways.
You got homework for next week
go.
now.
Yeah.
Go back and count all the
I think we got
episodes.
more numbers than his, though.
Probably.
We're probably over 600.
I would think so. But we were limited for a long time there because we were only once a week.
Yeah.
Where you guys are almost.
Yeah, we're 3 days a week this year.
And that you got to do that. It's so. All right, so you got the podcast started. Talk about a little about your co-hosts. Were those the guys that came and approached you and said, would you want to join this, or did you create the show?
Yeah, so Rod is my co-host. We've actually never even met in person. He lives in California. So, we're hoping to meet at a racetrack soon. But we know each other very well because we hang out 3 times a week, at least, sometimes more than that. So, but yeah, when it was kind of his idea, he had pitched it to the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. There's a whole network of shows, right? There's the Sports Gambling Podcast. There's the NBA podcast, the MLB. Basically, any sport you want to get into gambling on, they've got shows for it. And so Rod had the idea to start this show, was kind of looking for a co-host. That's where he had stumbled across me, kind of already giving out picks and could tell that I knew what I was talking about when it came to it. So, yeah, he approached me, and we kind of pitched the show together, and then that was the birth of it. And, yeah, like I said, here we are now.
It's kind of fun getting it kicked off because you're like, hey, let's do this. And then within a couple of decisions, you're like, oh, crap, we're doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy, too, because, like, I almost said no to him, if we're going to be honest. I'd never done any type of podcasting or really talking. I've never been like a person who likes to stand up in front of a room and talk. And so I was like, I don't know about this, And he's like, let's just try. When we started, it was just, we would record the podcast online together. We couldn't even see each other. There was no video or anything. And he's like, it's just going to be the two of us talking. So we sort of got comfortable. The first year we just started, it was one a week, right? We just picked the Cup Series race and kind of went there. But then it quickly progressed as the show kind of picked up and got more popular. Then we started getting into Xfinity Series, the Truck Series, getting into the fantasy side of things with DraftKings. Underdog Fantasy is a good partner for us. They do a lot of fun stuff over there for NASCAR as well. So it just progressed more and more. Now we do all of our shows live on YouTube, so we can interact with the chat, So we've got a really good group of people that join every show live, and they'll give their interactions, and we're kind of able to, if they can drop questions in the chat, we can respond to it, or, hey, what about this play or this pick? What do you think about this driver? So, yeah, it's a fun community that's kind of built over time.
Fantastic. NASCAR Gambling Podcast on Facebook, right?
Yes. Yep. Facebook. We're on the X. We're on the YouTube. All the stuff.
Are you putting your money where your mouth is?
Oh, you know it. It's Nebraska is not super sports gambling friendly, but you can go to the casinos now and place your bets there. So I live in Lincoln, so always get over to the Warhorse, get my bets in there. Obviously, if you cross the river, go into Iowa, you can place the bets on DraftKings, Caesars, wherever over there. So that's always good. And then that's another great thing about like Underdog Fantasy, that you can play here legally because it's a fantasy game. So it allows you to kind of get in on things there.
What a loophole!
I know it is a nice loophole. Fantasy game. So that's what's important about it.
It's so stupid.
That's Nebraska for you, but we're working. It's getting closer, right? At least we have the option for the casino stuff now. Where you can do it in person.
Yeah.
And so I think eventually we'll get more. And you can listen. We have listeners all over the country, all over the world. Really, we've got some really good listeners in Canada, Australia. A lot of people kind of started following the show when SVG came to town, right? So they're like, oh, let's get into this a little more. And so we've got some great listeners there too. And from all over the world, we hear from people, and everywhere is different. Even state to state, the betting is different and stuff. So it's a little tricky in that aspect of you try to find stuff that's going to work for a little bit of everybody. Not everybody has the same options, but it's getting more and more popular and becoming legal in more states, which makes it a lot of fun.
As it's expanding out and different stuff kind of come across, and you guys are kind of hitting after 600 episodes, you're not hitting your stride. You're there. Anything new you're looking at adding? Like in the back of my head, I'm like, is there any possibility of doing a 4th or a 5th podcast a week for local dirt racing?
Yeah, actually, so there definitely is potential for dirt racing and whatnot down the road. So World of Outlaws is actually available on Underdog Fantasy now, so you can pick. In Underdog Fantasy, if you don't know, pretty simple. They just have projected finishing positions. So say Denny Hamlin, I think, is like 8.5 this week. You pick better or worse. It's that simple. So is he going to finish better then? Is he going to finish worse then? You pick it, and then you put multiple entries in. So I think it's if you do 2, you get like 3 times your entry fee back. You can do, and they have all sorts of boosts. I was bad beat of the week last week. Right. I had a 6-guy lineup in there. 5 of them hit, and the last one I had SVG better than 5.5, and he finished in 6th place.
Did I mention that I'm 16th in my contest right now?
Yeah, don't look up where I'm at in your contest.
Did I mention that I'm the only 2-time winner of the second contest?
Hey, there you go. Dirk's got it on handle.
Long-time listeners to the podcast know I live outside the top 50, so the fact that I found the 16s, which that's probably changed now that Anthony got all of his points back from,
that was what a big swing there.
Yeah, that was 100-point penalty. I mean, that killed
To
a
get
lot
that
of people.
overturned.
Yeah.
Boy, yeah, I didn't think that they were going to win that. So I get the case that they made and why it was overturned, but you don't see that often.
Last time I won, I overcame a 60-point penalty to Alex Bowman.
Yeah.
Wow, there you go.
You overcame it. You didn't have the penalty.
Yeah, you didn't even get
rescinded.
it returned?
Yeah, you overcame that deficit. You didn't have the penalty rescinded.
That's even more impressive.
I'm trying to figure out where Anthony is in the contest. But did I mention him sitting 16th?
16th
Okay.
is, we should probably get a plaque or a
That's-
trophy made for this guy. What do you think, Dirk?
3 races in, I'm 16th. Should we just
Just call
contest
it now, right?
We'll see if he can.
I'm in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see if he can get like 5 weeks. No, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Check back in a
6
couple weeks.
1/6 of the season.
I know that gambling and fantasy with these sports is such it's so freaking difficult because you could have a bad set of tires. That's not something that factors into your decision when you're looking at a race. And you said this weekend at Phoenix, Denny's like an 8.5. They're not factoring in, just a poor set of Goodyear tires or
anything that goes wrong, right? A slow pit stop. He gets a speeding penalty. There's any number of things, which is what makes it tricky, right? Because it makes it harder to predict in some ways, but also what makes it fun because if it was just, we knew he was going to finish 7th place every week. Okay, then that's, what's the point? And you're not going to get good numbers on that anyways. But being able to kind of take everything into account and being able to watch different drivers. And last year we hit Rajah Caruth when he won at Las Vegas in the Truck Series. We hit him at 80-1. And that's not because you look back and you're like, oh, he's been really good here. He wins all the time, right? He'd never even won in the Truck Series. But it's just the constant, watching what he's been doing and seeing, wow, at Kansas, he looked really good and fast and showed a lot of speed, right? A similar track, it's going to translate. He kind of takes that next step. So putting it all together, and then things came into our play in that, right? Kyle Busch was in that race. Pretty hard guy to beat, but he got a speeding penalty, got kind of behind the 8 ball. And so, yeah, it can go both ways, right? It can be a bad beat if something like that does catch you wrong. But on the other side of things, it opens up. Somebody else has a bad day, and maybe the guy you bet on has a better day, and cash the bet that way.
Or you have Ross Chastain run into the side of your driver on the first turn of the first lap.
Oh, boy. I had a Chase Elliott top 5 bet, and I thought that was cooked.
Oh, I would have, too. I would have torn that
He
ticket
came all the way
up.
back and cashed it for us. So, yeah, I was, imagine what he could have done had he not got spun out on the first lap.
The irony of it all that he threw a big fit at the end of the last race with Carson Hocevar.
You can't write stories like this, Dan. It just naturally happens, which is great.
Turn 1 of the next race.
Just didn't waste any time. Like, hey, look, I can still be this way too, guys.
I mean, I kind of get what he was like. You watch the aerial of it, and you're like,
I don't get it. You can't win it all.
I'm a kind of an apologist, so he kind of got shoved to the inside, and at that point, he's like, "Ah, crap."
Just go for it.
I don't care what kind of racing you're doing if there's laps counted, so you got to throw out drag racing. But the first thing you're told at every pit meeting is you cannot win the race on the first lap.
Yeah.
Well, maybe Ross missed the driver's meeting.
It's a
No, because then he would have started last.
it's a
was worth a
larger
shot.
discussion that we've had a couple of times, but the sport needs more Ross Chastains and
look,
less Chase Elliott's.
Carson Hocevar, you're going to get that with him, and I think that's we actually talked about him this past week on our fantasy show going into Phoenix. I think that the fire you're seeing from him is very similar to what we got with Ross a few years ago. And so while you get this opportunity now, while he's cheap on fantasy, while you're getting better prices for the top 10s, take advantage of that because he's going to be aggressive. And sure, is that going to cost him at points? Are people going to kind of repay him? Yes. They've got to be careful because of the new rules about intentionally wrecking. But that fire, that drive is going to elevate him at least for a while, and maybe Mr. H has a conversation with him at some point, and he ends up like Ross Chastain with his tail tucked for a while. But in the meantime, let's take advantage of it.
Such a terrible thing. I wish they never would have had that conversation with Ross to calm down because it's great for ratings. It's great for I can't imagine anybody have a conversation with Dale Earnhardt Sr. You need to calm down and just let things happen. No, I'm going to move him, and I'm going to go win the race.
I'm going to rattle his cage.
I'm going to rattle. Yeah, I didn't mean to wreck him. I just wanted to move him. There's so many little things like that come out of that guys like Hocevar and Chastain, and we saw it with a little bit of changing the guard. Keselowski, Logano, and those guys that are now the veterans that are now walking up to these guys in the pits after the races and saying, "You can't do this stuff."
Well, that's like Kevin Harvick.
They were doing it.
Toward the end of his career was very much like that. And
Yeah.
you look back and you're like, what happened to the fiery,
Right.
ready to fight everybody
Right.
Kevin Harvick we had before he was a dad and a veteran and he'd been doing it for such a long time?
Do you guys get an opportunity to get out to racetracks?
Yeah.
With Kansas being just down the road from you, California. I mean, God knows what's going on with the racetrack in California.
Yeah,
people,
so Rod's
people
pretty
do
close.
know, just nobody's talking about it.
Yeah. I think that ship has sailed. But he's fairly close to Sonoma, so he's been able to get out there the last couple of years. I wasn't able to go to last year to Kansas. We had softball tournaments and whatnot with the kid. But, I love getting out to Kansas, hoping to be there this year. Iowa, I didn't make that one either, but hoping to make it this year. Was able to go to the IndyCar race in Iowa last year, or 2 years ago.
That's an awesome race.
Oh, such a great event. That
wanna
is
talk
so
about
much
speed?
fun. Yeah. The
God.
speed and just, it's absolutely beautiful.
I
So,
don't think I'm right with this number, but I seem to remember the last time I went, which was quite a few years ago. Joseph Newgarden lapped all the way up to fourth. I want to say their lap times were around 200, not lap times, but lap speeds were somewhere around 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's physically possible at Iowa Speedway, but that's stuck in my head.
Well, their slogan is fastest, is it 3/8 mile? I think it's, or
7/8.
7/8. Yeah, fastest 7/8 mile or whatever. But it's, it's the speed, the way those cars just stick, it's banked like perfectly to allow that, and it's insane. So, and we actually get into the F1 gambling as well. We get into IndyCar, all that stuff, mostly on our YouTube channel over at NASCAR Gambling there. We kind of do separate videos for that, but we're open for all sorts of racing. And like I mentioned with dirt tracks and stuff earlier, World of Outlaws seems to be getting into it. High Limits has started their own partnership now with, I remember who it was with, I have to go back and look, but they're trying to get into all that stuff as well. So I think that betting on dirt racing is going to sort of become a bigger thing as we go forward. And, that's certainly something we'd be interested in.
I'm really excited about my race pass getting on an Eagle. We're all in a private group chat, and I think I might have screamed like a little girl when that news finally got announced. But they do a fantastic job with their fantasy stuff, and that would be a fun avenue of we had a lot of fun with it when we could do it at I-80 Speedway, and we would do it once or twice races around the season. We would do it. Now to be able to do a weekly contest, I'm so excited about it. And once again, I'm going to start off hot and then just peter out. So anybody that's
we have that to look forward to at least. But that's the exciting thing. And we're the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Sure, that's our name and that's kind of our main focus. But even if you don't want to go gamble on it, or you can't because of the state you're in, or whatever the case is, like even if you're just playing NASCAR Fantasy or you're playing in your guys' contest, things like that, you can pick up on, hey, this guy's kind of a sneaky play here, or this guy's more of a favorite, but why? We don't really see that. The results don't really show that, and that type of stuff. So, it's not gambling. Obviously, is sort of the main focus, but it's not all about that. It's about the fantasy games and all that other stuff as well, which makes it exciting.
It's amazing how this is all kind of taken off as we're all kind of sitting here chatting about it. I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, God, 15 years ago, sport was just the sport. Like, we have a game today. This player's active. This player's injured. This player's that. But now, fantasy and gambling have added so much content to talk about every single day of the week. Absolutely, you guys absolutely need 3 shows a day. 3 shows a week.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cup Series is fun and exciting, but Xfinity and trucks, I would argue, are even more fun to bet on. I think we have a bigger advantage there because it is more of a clear-cut kind of who the top guys are, but at the same time, you could still hit like an 81 on Roger like we did last year. And it's fun to watch. And then really like learning those guys on these starting series, right, when they get up to the Cup Series. Carson Hocevar, and we know how good he was at Texas on the trucks. I can't wait till we get to Texas this year because he's going to be the first guy I'm going to look at for a top 10 bet because I think that's going to translate from his Truck Series days into his Cup Series days.
Well, it showed at Atlanta, and they're almost identical tracks. So he ran Atlanta good. He's going to be good at Texas.
Yeah.
Cody Zeeb of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Find him on Facebook, YouTube, the platform formerly known as Twitter, X. Are you guys on Bumble or Tinder?
Not yet, but you never know.
I don't know about except Rob, right? That's
Rod, yep.
Yeah, Rod. I don't know. Is he married?
He is married.
Okay, so I guess it wouldn't fit.
Yeah, we don't quite fit on that.
TikTok? I think you.
We need to get on the TikTok.
Well, your social media presence on Facebook, you've got a great mascot.
Yes, we do.
She's fun and creative to listen to, so that's kind of I
yeah.
like that change of pace.
Yeah, we got
Talking about
the weekly. Yeah, my daughter's sitting over here. She does her weekly picks she goes through the paint schemes. That's how she determines her picks. So her job is to find the paint schemes she likes.
I was noticing she was very frustrated with the paint schemes with Phoenix because there was no bright ones.
We need the bright colors. We need the stuff to pop out.
Definitely.
She loves the Alex Bowman. The dogs on the car this week is perfect. So she finds the paint scheme she likes, and then I find the bets that line up with it. And that's always a lot of fun.
She was, as you were talking, I was trying to pay attention because that's what a good interviewer does. I heard she's back here stretching, and my body hasn't moved like that in about 42 years. She's going to do it again. Oh, my God. Her knee touched her chest.
She's got gymnastics bars and all sorts of stuff at the house.
Insane.
Yeah. I hurt watching her most of the time.
Any sponsors you want to make sure and cover?
Yeah, Underdog Fantasy. That's kind of our main one. You can sign up with them using the promo code RACESGPN, and they've got just tons of options. And again, it's racing as far as NASCAR goes. They've got F1 over there. Like I mentioned with the World of Outlaws, you can even get some drag racing stuff, some motocross, all that kind of stuff as well. And you can play things across sports. So, during football season, if you like Saquon Barkley's rushing yards and you want to tie that in with the Kyle Larson finishing position, those are things that you can put together and create your entries. So, yeah, they're a great partner, and we got a lot of other good partners as well that check out the show, and we've got, and they usually line up with the type of stuff we're talking about, right? MyBookie, things like that. So it's great.
Fantastic. NASCAR Gambling Podcast is on Facebook. Make sure to like and follow it today, and then watch them when they broadcast their live feeds through Facebook and through YouTube. Cody, appreciate it, man.
Thanks,
good
guys.
Talking
Appreciate
with
you having me.
It's good to finally get you on the show. That's going to do it for us in turn number 1. Dirk and I are going to be right back in turn number 2.